Have you ever felt like there's more to you than meets the eye? A hidden depth, maybe a secret garden within your own being?
Hmm.
We spend so much of our lives mapping the external world, right? Navigating careers, relationships, all those daily tasks with intricate
That's
plans.
the old stuff.
But what about the inner landscape? Today, we're looking at a map, but not of a city or a country. We're exploring an extraordinary blueprint of the human soul itself.
That's a great way to put it, a blueprint.
We're embarking on a really profound journey guided by this remarkable 16th century Spanish mystic, Saint Teresa of Avila, and her seminal work, The Interior Castle.
An incredible text.
She invites us into this amazing central metaphor, the soul as a magnificent crystal castle. And it contains 7 successive mansions or dwelling places.
Right. Each one representing a different stage of spiritual development. It's quite a vision.
It really is. So for our deep dive today, what's the plan?
Well, our aim is to explore Teresa's vision, not just as, a historical document or some dusty theological treatise.
Yeah.
Our mission is really to unpack it as a surprisingly practical, resonant guide for anyone seeking to understand their own spiritual development.
Practical, I like that.
Yeah, and the path of contemplative prayer, and ultimately that transformative union with the divine. We want to pull out those potent nuggets of knowledge,
Aha, moments.
Exactly. Those moments that offer not just understanding, but maybe a genuine aha for your own inner exploration. And we'll see how these ancient insights, well, they find striking parallels across loads of different spiritual traditions and how they might actually illuminate your personal journey today.
That's a powerful mission. Okay, let's open the gates then. Let's get into this incredible vision. What exactly is this crystal castle, and why did Teresa choose such a vivid, almost fantastical image to describe the human soul?
It's the perfect place to start. What's truly fascinating about that initial image, the crystal castle, is what it immediately implies about the soul's inherent nature, which its beauty, its divine origin. By picturing the soul as this magnificent crystal structure, gleaming, multifaceted, with all these rooms or mansions, she immediately conveys its purity, its potential for transparency, and its vast, almost infinite capacity for housing the divine.
So not something dark or flawed from the start.
Precisely. It's not a dark, dusty, or crumbling old building. It's presented as this vibrant, light-filled space, absolutely brimming with potential. And the very core of this castle, she tells us, the deepest part, is the 7th mansion.
Okay.
And that's the dwelling place of God himself.
Wow.
And crucially, this is really important, it's not something we acquire from outside. It's not like a prize we win after immense effort.
Right.
Rather, it's something we return to. Or perhaps, more accurately, something we become deeply aware of within ourselves. The divine presence isn't earned. It's already there at our deepest core.
That immediately shifts the whole perspective, doesn't it? It's not a journey to God as if God were somewhere external, far away. It becomes a journey within to realize a truth that's already existing, an inherent presence. It's a profound reorientation.
It really is.
It reminds me actually of some ancient wisdom, like in the Bhagavad Gita, where it speaks of Narayana, the supreme person, residing both outside and inside every living being.
Simultaneously far and near, yes.
Right. It captures that sense of omnipresence, this deep truth that the divine isn't just transcendent, way out there, but also utterly immanent right here within us.
Beautifully put.
And, Conversations with God takes this concept even further, doesn't it? It says something like God is everything and God becomes everything.
There is nothing which God is not.
And all that God is experiencing of itself, God is experiencing in, as, and through you. That's a pretty absolute assertion of pervasive divinity.
It is. It leaves no room for separation, really.
Even the Quran touches on this, right? Affirming that God makes his revelations clear and that we are made, deputies on earth.
Yes, deputies or stewards. Which implies not just a capacity for the divine within us, but maybe even a sacred responsibility connected to that.
So the core insight here from Teresa and these other traditions is that the soul's beauty and divine origin aren't things we achieve.
Exactly. They're not external attainments. We're not striving to become divine in a way that implies we currently aren't. It's more like an internal recognition.
A remembering.
A remembering, yes, or becoming aware of a truth that has always been present. It's about peeling back the layers, the layers of illusion and distraction to reveal what is eternally and intrinsically there.
And this fundamental idea, this inner journey, this map of the soul, the divine spark within, it's not just Teresa in 16th century Spain, is it?
At all.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. This universal call to look inward, it just seems to echo in spiritual traditions all over the globe.
Yeah.
It feels like a fundamental, almost archetypal human intuition.
That's such a crucial observation. Really does suggest something fundamental about human consciousness. What these diverse traditions collectively underscore is exactly that. An archetypal intuition that our deepest identity isn't confined to the physical body.
Or our job title.
Or our temporary experiences, or even our individual personalities. It points towards an unchanging divine essence within.
The real is.
The real is. And the truly transformative insight here is that this isn't just some abstract theological claim. It's a universal call to look inward for what is eternal, for the self that underlies all experience.
Can you give some examples of where else we see this?
Oh, definitely. Take Hinduism, for instance. You look at ancient texts like the Mundak Upanishad or the Ashtavakra Gita, famously referenced in B here. Now they speak of the Atman.
The true self.
Right, the true self. Described as the witness, all-pervading, perfect, free, one, consciousness, actionless. It's this unchanging, pure awareness residing within. Yes. And the Bhagavad Gita further describes the immutable spirit soul, distinct from the temporary body, like an eternal passenger in a perishable vehicle.
And more modern views.
Sure. A book like The Seat of the Soul offers a more contemporary take, calling the soul the essence of who you are, powerful, expansive, evolving.
So whether it's Atman or soul or essence, the message seems consistent. There's something enduring and divine at our core, regardless of the specific framework.
Precisely. And you see this mirrored across so many paths. In Sufism, for example, think of Rumi's Masnavi.
Beautiful poetry.
Incredible. And it's just replete with verses speaking to a deep spiritual understanding achieved through inner purification, that journey towards reunion with the divine beloved.
A cleansing of the heart.
Exactly. Cleansing the heart to reflect the divine light. Then you have Neoplatonism.
Okay, tell me more about that connection.
Well, Neoplatonism was a philosophy that profoundly influenced early Christian mysticism. Aldous Huxley points this out in The Perennial Philosophy. Figures like Dionysius the Areopagite, they became a key bridge, translating these complex Neoplatonic ideas of spiritual ascent into a language that fit within a Christian framework.
Can you elaborate just a bit on that Neoplatonic idea? For listeners maybe not familiar with Dionysius or Plotinus, what was their core contribution to this inner ascent idea?
Certainly. Plotinus, who's really foundational for Neoplatonism, articulated this vision of reality emanating from a single ultimate source. He called it the one, or sometimes the good.
A source of everything.
Yes. And he talks about how substance in the intelligible world, the world of pure forms and ideas, is purer, more sovereign. And that the good, the ultimate reality, should not be made two, even in conception. It's utterly unified.
And divided.
Undivided. This concept of an ultimate single source from which everything flows and to which everything seeks to return directly informed the mystical understanding of the soul's journey back to that unified divine core, much like Teresa's seventh mansion.
Ah, I see the connection.
Then Dionysius took these ideas and, well, he reframed them within a Christian context. He provided a kind of philosophical backbone for Christian mystics to understand the soul's progression through various stages of purification, illumination back towards God.
And we see that lineage.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's visible in early Christian mystical texts like The Cloud of Unknowing, which describes the soul rising above all things and above itself to mount upward to God.
Wow.
And also Theologia Germanica, which speaks directly about achieving this profound union with the divine will.
This raises a really important question, though, one that I think a lot of people might grapple with. If each soul is its own magnificent castle, a unique entity, how do we relate to that larger divine reality you just described, the one? Are we truly separate, or are we part of a greater whole? It feels like a paradox.
It is absolutely a paradox, and it's one that spiritual traditions handle with, I think, remarkable beauty.
How so?
Well, Conversations with God actually introduces this concept directly as the divine dichotomy. It says, there is only one of us. There are many of us. We are all the same stuff. We are all the same energy, coalesced, compressed in different ways to create different forms.
So both things are true at once.
Exactly. It highlights this essential paradoxical unity and individuality of souls. Our bodies, they appear as discrete units, right? But the clumps of energy, as the text calls our souls, are fundamentally parts of the divine whole.
Like waves in the ocean.
That's a classic analogy, yes. We are, in essence, individual expressions or experiences of the whole, yet we remain entirely connected to it. The castle metaphor honors the unique journey of each soul, while the divine presence at its core constantly points back to that ultimate unity.
Okay, so if we're all part of this divine tapestry and our souls are these magnificent castles with God already at the center, how do we even begin to enter this inner dwelling?
Right.
Because it sounds like many of us are starting out, maybe even living our whole lives completely outside the walls, almost totally unaware of the grandeur within, just constantly drawn away by everything happening outside.
You've hit upon Teresa's core observation about the soul's, let's say, initial state or default mode for many.
Right.
She describes exactly that. Many souls residing entirely outside the castle walls. Their attention is completely consumed by the external world.
The noise.
The noise, the demands, the distractions, the fleeting pleasures. They're so engrossed in what's happening out there that they lack fundamental self-knowledge.
Not because it isn't there.
No, not because it isn't there, but simply because they aren't looking inward. It's like having this magnificent inner home, but always choosing to camp out in the noisy, bustling street instead.
That's a vivid image.
Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled touches on something related. He talks about how children develop these maps of the world.
Okay.
And many people, maybe through fear or just a lack of introspection, remain stuck in these early, often painful conceptualizations of reality and themselves.
Outdated maps.
Exactly. And this, Peck says, leads to alienating himself from everyone, making it impossible for himself to enjoy love, warmth, intimacy, and affection. This effectively keeps them from ever really entering their own inner dwelling, trapped by old perceptions.
Wow. That's a sobering thought that we might be actively, if unconsciously, preventing ourselves from entering. So what sparks it then? What makes someone want to turn inward to seek entrance to the castle? It can't just be random.
No, it rarely is. There's usually a trigger, a call, as you put it. This turning inward is the crucial first step, often described as a moment of awakening.
And it's not just intellectual.
Rarely purely intellectual. More often, it's sparked by a deep longing, maybe a profound dissatisfaction with purely external pursuits. Tolstoy, in The Varieties of Religious Experience, called it a thirst for God.
A thirst?
Yes, a consciousness of life that pulls us out of maybe despair or just a sense of spiritual emptiness. It's that dawning recognition that something essential is missing.
That the external stuff isn't enough.
Isn't ultimately fulfilling, no matter how grand it seems. For some people, it is a crisis that sparks it. For others, it's more subtle, a persistent yearning that just won't go away.
And is there guidance on how to respond to that call?
Well, the Quran offers some wisdom here, encouraging believers to seek help in patience and prayer. God stands with those who are patient. This points to a kind of fundamental inner discipline, a receptive attitude that's needed for this shift.
Patience and prayer.
Yes. It requires a conscious choice to reorient one's life, one's attention, towards the inner world.
Okay, so let's say we've felt that spark. We're at the gate. Maybe we've even taken that first step inside, into the first mansions. It's not like all our troubles just vanish, right?
Not at all. Far from it.
We're still grappling with the noise of the world, those ingrained habits. It's like entering the foyer, but you can still clearly hear the street sounds.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The initial mansions, according to Teresa, are very much characterized by this active engagement or maybe struggle with the world's distractions.
The stuff that pulls us back outside.
Precisely. Conversations with God puts it quite bluntly, saying most people live life on a body level. Feed the body, clothe the body, give the body stuff. Most people don't want to have to think.
Ouch. A bit harsh maybe, but...
Well, it points to a tendency. This focus leads to being deeply mired in matters of the body, money, sex, power, possessions, physical stimulations and satisfactions, security, fame, financial gain.
all the external pursuits.
Exactly. And these are precisely the kinds of external attractions that Teresa describes as keeping the soul from entering deeply into itself. They constantly pull our attention away from the inner work that's needed.
But it's not just the external pulls, is it? There's something deeper, maybe more insidious, that Teresa seems to be battling in those initial mansions, and that's our own ego.
Yes, the ego.
It's not just a part of us. It often feels like this powerful, deeply entrenched guardian trying to keep us from fully realizing our true nature within that castle, like a gatekeeper to our deeper self. How do these different traditions talk about this internal resistance?
That's an excellent point and absolutely crucial for understanding these early stages. Many spiritual texts, A Course in Miracles is a prime example, highlight the ego's core function. It creates and, frankly, thrives on separation.
Separation from what?
From God, from others, from our true self. The Course calls the ego an off-balance state, precisely because it fundamentally lacks discrimination between the body and the thoughts of God. Meaning, the ego distorts or just outright refuses to accept any truth that points to its own non-existence, its own illusory nature. It's a master of illusion.
How so?
It cleverly minimizes our surface fears, maybe. It makes us feel temporarily okay, but it never actually undoes the root fear. It perpetually upholds this sense of me versus everything else through fear. It actively works to keep us from seeing our true interconnected nature.
So it's not just that the ego distracts us with shiny objects.
No, it's more fundamental.
It actively resists anything that would reveal our interconnectedness or our divine essence because that realization threatens its very identity, its illusion of being a separate, controlling entity.
Exactly, you've got it. And this resistance isn't just intellectual, it's deeply felt in the body, in our emotions. Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul talks about this as our natural tendency to resist experiences.
Resisting what is.
Yes. When we push back against what is, whether it's a difficult thought, a painful emotion, an unwelcome external event, we create this internal tension. He uses that vivid image of damming up a stream of pain.
Right, I remember that.
The constant noise inside your mind, Singer argues, is often just the ego's desperate attempt to avoid stored pain, to maintain its illusion of control, and ultimately to prevent us from truly settling into the inner stillness required to move beyond those outer mansions.
That's a really powerful image, that dammed up stream of pain. It makes me think about how much energy we actually expend just avoiding discomfort. For people listening, what are some common, maybe everyday ways this egoic resistance shows up? Ways that might be keeping them just outside the castle walls, perhaps without even realizing it.
Oh, it can be incredibly subtle, permeating our daily lives in ways we barely notice. Think about that persistent self-judgment,
The inner critic.
Exactly, that inner critic always finding fault with everything you do or say. Or the compulsive need to be right in an argument, even when deep down, maybe you're not.
Been there.
Haven't we all? It's the constant comparison with others, leading to feeling superior one minute and inferior the next. It's clinging tightly to past grievances, replaying them over and over in your mind.
Ruminating.
Yes. Or the chronic anxiety about future events that we actually have no control over. These are all subtle yet incredibly powerful ways the ego keeps us locked in its narrative of separation and fear. It subtly prevents us from turning our gaze fully inward and discovering the vast, peaceful space within.
So recognizing those patterns, seeing the ego for what it is, maybe just a set of learned defense mechanisms.
That's often the very first critical step. Recognizing it, seeing through it, begins to disarm its power and allows for genuine entry into the castle.
Okay, so given these powerful forces, external distractions pulling us out, internal egoic resistance pushing us back, how do we begin to counteract them? What are the initial practices Teresa and other Trishans suggest to even start clearing out these outer mansions?
This is where those initial foundational practices come in. Things like dedicated self-reflection, just taking time to look honestly at ourselves, and basic forms of contemplative prayer.
What does that look like?
It can be very simple initially, but the Cloud of Unknowing, another really profound mystical text, outlines what it calls 3 means for a contemplative apprentice to begin this work.
3 means?
Yes. Reading, thinking, and praying. And these aren't just academic exercises, like homework.
Right.
They are active, intentional ways to begin reorienting our minds inward, to gently, consistently pull our attention away from the external clamor.
How do they work together?
Well, reading sacred texts or wisdom literature can inspire and instruct. Thinking allows us to process and internalize these truths, to make them our own. And praying, even in its simplest form, is that direct act of turning our attention towards the divine within, whatever that means to you initially.
It takes persistence, though, right?
Absolutely. The Way of a Pilgrim, that classic Russian text, heavily emphasizes the importance of unceasing prayer. It tells the story of Agafonik,
I don't know that one.
a monk who, when he neglected this continuous practice, this constant turning inward, saw absolutely no spiritual benefit. It illustrates the need for persistence, for consistent effort to move beyond the superficial distractions of the outer mansions. It's really about establishing a consistent internal practice, kind of routine for the soul.
A routine for the soul. I like that. Okay, so as we move deeper into the castle, past those initial gates and into the middle mansions, it's clear this journey isn't passive.
Definitely not.
It's not always, sunshine and rainbows. It sounds like it's about really getting down to work, clearing out the old stuff, facing what's actually inside us, and actively cultivating new ways of being. This sounds like it requires, immense inner effort and a willingness to confront some pretty significant internal challenges.
You've described it perfectly. The middle mansions are unequivocally characterized by active purification and often intense inner struggle. This is the stage where we move beyond a superficial, maybe purely intellectual faith, into active spiritual work.
Real work.
Real work. The way of a pilgrim, again, it speaks vividly of valiant spiritual battles and inner struggles to achieve a complete self-renunciation. It's not just passive contemplation anymore. It's a dynamic, often arduous engagement with our inner landscape, confronting those deeply ingrained habits and patterns that keep us bound, that keep us from the divine center.
That sounds intense, maybe even a little daunting. What does this self-renunciation truly mean in practice? Does it mean giving everything up, abandoning all worldly pleasures, embracing austerity in a really painful sense? Because I think many people might find that concept quite off-putting.
That's a very common misconception, and it's really important to clarify. Renunciation, as it's understood in these deep mystical traditions, isn't primarily about self-denial in a punitive, painful way.
Okay, so what is it?
It's much more about intelligent discernment and fundamentally about a changing of our desires. Conversations with God offers a very clear perspective on this. It says that renunciation in the classic sense of self-denial is not required.
Oh.
It goes on. A true master simply sets it aside as he would do with anything for which he no longer has any use.
Sets it aside, meaning?
Meaning the key isn't to force ourselves to give up something we still deeply crave. It's to cultivate an inner state where those desires naturally fall away because we've found something far more fulfilling, far more real.
Ah, so it's about desire changing.
Exactly. It's about moving from what might feel like a rigorous, often forced discipline, I must not want this, to a joyful exercise born of new understanding and new priorities. You're not denying passion itself, perhaps, but the attachment to outcomes, to material things, or especially to egoic gratification.
I see. It's the attachment that's the issue.
Precisely. The Dhammapada, the Buddhist text, describes one who has renounced lusts or attachments as a Brahmin, signifying not just external austerity, but a profound inner shift, a liberation from that compulsive grasping.
So it's less about outward restriction and more about an inward transformation of desire. And part of that inward transformation must involve actively cultivating new positive qualities, right? Like building up our inner strength and spiritual character.
Absolutely. This stage in the middle mansions places a very strong emphasis on cultivating virtues, on consciously developing qualities that align us more deeply with the divine nature within.
Like what kind of qualities?
Well, the Philokalia, which is a great collection of texts from Eastern Orthodox spiritual masters, describes how right judgment penetrates all three aspects of the soul, enabling them to function in harmony.
Right judgment, like discernment.
Yes, discernment, wisdom, and action. Through this discretion and inner wisdom, it says, the soul fights against the hostile powers and defends the virtues. It encourages self-restraint, but again, not as suppression, but as a deliberate, wise channeling of energy.
And love.
And crucially, love. A love that urges a man to love all men as himself. A universal, selfless love that extends outwards from that inner alignment.
That sounds familiar.
It echoes Stoic wisdom too, like Marcus Aurelius in the Meditations. He advises never to value that as advantageous, which may force you to break your faith, to quit your modesty or sense of honor, to hate, suspect, or imprecate evil on anyone, to dissemble.
Basically, don't compromise your core integrity.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions, our character, our every choice with our highest ideals and that divine spark within. It's about becoming coherent, integrated.
And part of that cultivation involves how we understand and apply faith itself, doesn't it? Moving beyond just, believing something without question to a deeper, more personal, experienced conviction.
Absolutely critical. We're moving beyond blind belief here. This isn't just about accepting something someone told you. It's about developing a deep experiential certainty, something that becomes an intrinsic part of who you are because you've touched it yourself.
How is that different from just belief?
Eric Fromm, in The Art of Loving, makes a brilliant distinction. He talks about irrational faith, which is basically submission to an external, often irrational authority, blind acceptance.
Okay.
And he contrasts that with rational faith. He describes rational faith as a conviction which is rooted in one's own experience of thought or feeling, the quality of certainty and firmness which our convictions have.
Rooted in experience.
Yes. Rational faith, for Fromm, isn't primarily belief in something external. It's a character trait, almost. It pervades the whole personality. And it's built on genuine inner experience and a trust in one's own capacity for reason, feeling, and intuition. It's a conviction that grows from within, from actually experiencing the truth of these spiritual principles in your own life.
And that kind of rational faith, the one rooted in direct experience, must require immense self-discipline, especially in how we direct our energy and attention. You can't just spread yourself thin trying to engage with every little distraction or tangent. It sounds like it needs a very focused, deliberate effort.
You're absolutely right. Self-discipline and focused intention are crucial for directing one's energy productively in these middle mansions. M. Scott Peck, back in The Road Less Traveled, makes this point very clearly when he discusses love.
What does he say?
He says, genuine love involves an extension of oneself. Vast amounts of energy are required. Our loving must be focused as productively as possible through self-discipline.
Focused love.
Yes. He even goes on to say, quite pragmatically, that we simply cannot love everyone in that deep transformational way. We have to choose where to invest that energy, choose those relationships and paths that genuinely contribute to spiritual growth, both ours and others.
That makes sense. You can't pour from an empty cup or a scattered one.
Exactly. This disciplined focus allows us to make genuine, deep progress within the castle, rather than just dissipating our energy on countless fleeting interests or superficial engagements. The Tao Te Ching speaks beautifully about the nameless simplicity that frees the heart of desire and reveals its inner silence.
Inner silence.
When there is silence, one finds peace. And that inner silence, that freedom from distracting desires, it's cultivated through exactly this kind of disciplined intention and focus. It's not accidental.
Okay. So let's say you've done the work. You've started to clear out the major distractions in your soul. You've consciously cultivated some virtues, developed a more rational, experienced faith. But then you hit a wall.
Ah, the wall, yes.
Yeah. What happens when the path gets really, really tough? When you feel like maybe you're even going backward? Or worse, when that divine presence you thought you were cultivating just seems to vanish? This sounds like a profound kind of trial.
It absolutely is. And this brings us to a crucial and often profoundly difficult stage in the journey. It's often called the purgation of the senses and spirit.
Purgation, a cleansing.
A deep cleansing, yes. And this is where St. John of the Cross, Teresa's contemporary and friend, offers such profound insight in his work, Dark Night of the Soul.
The famous Dark Night.
Indeed. He describes aridities and temptations, those periods where all the old spiritual comforts are suddenly removed, where prayer feels dry, empty, maybe even impossible, and profound doubt can creep in. It's a stripping away of everything we thought we knew or relied upon in our spiritual practice.
Like the rug being pulled out.
Very much so. The Quran actually warns about exactly these kinds of trials. We shall be testing you with some fear and famine, with loss of wealth, lives, and crops. But give glad tidings to the patient, to those who, when calamity strikes, say, we belong to God, and to Him we shall return. It frames it as a period of deep testing, designed to purify and strengthen faith at its absolute deepest level.
So it feels like a withdrawal of God.
It feels like that, yes.
Yeah.
But from the mystical perspective, it's actually understood as an invitation to a deeper, less dependent, more mature relationship.
That's a powerful reframing, and relatable, I think, for anyone who's faced significant challenges, spiritual or otherwise. But it still feels deeply counterintuitive, this idea John of the Cross puts forward, gaining security by walking in darkness. It seems like such a paradox. How does a period of what feels like spiritual regression actually lead to greater security?
It absolutely is a paradox, and grappling with it is key to navigating this stage successfully. Dark Night of the Soul states, quite startlingly, that the greater is the darkness wherein the soul journeys and the more completely is it voided of its natural operations, the greater is its security.
How can that be?
Because in this state, where all external comforts and even internal consolations like feeling God's presence are removed, the soul is, as he puts it, here gaining the virtues, not by actively doing anything, but by passively allowing this stripping away to happen. So the apparent regression is actually a profound cleansing, Yeah. A purification, a stripping away of all that isn't truly essential, all the attachments we might have developed to specific spiritual experiences or even to a particular self-image of being spiritual.
Ah, letting go of the spiritual ego, too.
Exactly. It leads to a deeper, far more secure foundation because your faith is no longer dependent on pleasant feelings or tangible results or how good you feel about your progress.
Yeah.
It becomes rooted in sheer, naked trust.
How do you navigate that practically?
Well, Tara Brach's work on radical acceptance speaks directly to this. She discusses encountering suffering, fear, numbness, all hallmarks of the dark night, and she offers practices like Tonglen, the Tibetan practice.
Breathing in the suffering.
Yes. Breathing in the feelings of fear or numbness, really touching them fully, accepting them. And then breathing out forgiveness, compassion, offering the resistance itself into the spaciousness of awareness. This willingness to lean into the discomfort of the dark night, rather than fighting it or running from it, is precisely what allows for genuine purification and true liberation from attachment.
That's a profound practice, actively embracing the pain, the darkness, rather than pushing it away. This whole concept, though, can be a tough one for many of us. This idea that to truly be it, to find this deeper security and union, you first have to let go of you. It sounds almost like, well, spiritual annihilation, a losing of the self.
It is a profound paradox, and it's often referred to using terms like self-annihilation. Though it's probably more accurate to think of it as a dissolution of the egoic self, the constructed self, not the true self.
The false self dying.
Exactly. Theologia Germanica, that medieval text, talks about the old man representing Adam, disobedience, the self, the me needing to be destroyed.
Destroyed. Strong word.
It is. It speaks of dying unto himself, to earthly pleasures, consolations, joys, appetites, the I, the self, and all that is thereof in man. Only when that false, self-centered structure dies, it says, is the new man born again.
So it's not about ceasing to exist as a conscious being.
Not at all. It's about letting go of the ego-driven, constructed, perceived self, the one built on fear and separation, in order to reveal the true, authentic self, the one that is inherently connected to the divine.
It's a shift in identity.
A radical shift. The cloud of unknowing puts it incredibly powerfully. Thou shalt not only in this work forget all other creatures than thyself, but also thou shalt in this work forget both thyself and also thy deeds for God.
Forget your good deeds, too.
As well as all other creatures and their deeds. For it is the condition of a perfect lover, not only to love that thing that he loveth more than himself, but also in a manner for to hate himself for that thing that he loveth.
Hate himself, that sounds extreme.
It's provocative language, certainly. But it's pointing to a radical reorientation of love and priority, where the ego's constant self-concern completely diminishes in favor of this vast, universal, selfless love for the divine and all of creation. The self that gets hated is the small, grasping ego.
Okay, I see. So it's a radical letting go, an active choice then to embrace what is, even the difficult experiences, the darkness, without resistance.
Yeah.
Moving from fighting reality to just profound acceptance.
Exactly. That is the absolute core of allowing this deep transformation to occur, moving from resistance to acceptance. Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now teaches us to stop investing experiences with selfness. When we do that, he says, the mind loses its compulsive quality, which basically is the compulsion to judge, and so to resist what is.
Stop judging, stop resisting.
Yes. And he further advises so profoundly, if you love life, nothing is worth closing over. Nothing ever is worth closing your heart over. This profound acceptance, especially in the midst of the dark night, this courageous willingness to stay open and vulnerable even when it's painful, is precisely what prepares the soul for that ultimate union. Because it removes the final barriers of self-protection and fear that the ego has spent a lifetime constructing.
Okay. We've journeyed through the outer rooms. We've navigated the often really arduous trials of the middle mansions. We've even faced and maybe embraced the darkness of letting go, of purgation. Now, what is the ultimate promise of this inner castle? What awaits us at the very center in that seventh mansion? What is this profound union that Teresa describes?
This is the pinnacle. The ultimate goal, the culmination of the entire journey within the interior castle, is precisely this, divine union.
And what does that mean exactly?
While St. John of the Cross, echoing Teresa's experience, describes the soul's ultimate state not as an annihilation of individuality where you just disappear.
Right, not just dissolving into nothing.
No, but as the profound transformation where, as he puts it, all that it is will become like to God, for which cause it will be called and will be God by participation.
God by participation.
Yes. It's not about becoming God, in essence, it's a theological minefield, but becoming like God. Participating so fully in the divine nature, reflecting God's attributes like love, wisdom, peace, so perfectly that the soul becomes, in a sense, functionally indistinguishable from the divine action and presence in the world. It's an intimate, transformative communion that elevates the soul to its highest potential.
Is this unique to Christian mysticism?
Not entirely. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, speaks to a similar state. One can understand me as I am, as the supreme personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. This entering isn't just a change of location after death. It's understood as achieving a state of deep intimacy and realization right here, a conscious merging of the individual will with the divine will.
That sounds like a state of profound oneness, then, where the individual consciousness becomes so clear, so unobstructed by ego, that it achieves a kind of complete transparency to the divine light.
It is indeed often described in terms of oneness and transparency. Think of Yogananda in Autobiography of a Yogi, recounting those rare, precious moments of finding eternal shelter in a true guru and sensing divine unity, that overwhelming feeling of being connected to everything, utterly beyond the illusion of separation. Or be here. Now, referencing Ram Dass's experiences, talks about the ecstatic transparency of their own minds. It suggests this clear, unobstructed connection where the mind no longer distorts reality with its judgments and fears, but simply luminously reflects it.
And William James,
the psychologist and philosopher, in the varieties of religious experience, he cataloged these unifying states of mind. Things like religious rapture, moral enthusiasm, ontological wonder, cosmic emotion. And he noted that in these states, the sand and grit of the selfhood incline to disappear and tenderness to rule. It's a state of profound love, interconnectedness, pure being, where that small, constricted self is transcended and something much larger shines through.
So what does this all mean for our everyday lives, then? Does achieving this union mean we just float away on a cloud, detached from the world and all its messy responsibilities?
Not usually.
Or does it, maybe paradoxically, transform how we engage with the world? Does it make us even more present, more effective?
It absolutely does not mean floating away or becoming uselessly detached from life. Quite the opposite, in fact. This profound union with the divine radically transforms how we manifest divine consciousness in the world, through our actions, through our presence. Well, a key aspect of this state is living entirely, fully, in the eternal moment of now. Conversations with God is incredibly emphatic about this. The present moment is the only reality. Stay there. Now is all there is.
Stay there.
Stay there. It further emphasizes there is only one moment, this moment. The eternal moment of now is right now that everything is happening and I am glorified. This deep awareness of the eternal present becomes the fundamental ground of your being. It informs every action, every interaction, every decision with a new kind of clarity and purpose.
So no more struggle with past regrets or future anxieties?
Ideally, yes, or at least they lose their obsessive grip. There's just pure presence responding appropriately to what is right now.
And this state of being, this profound presence, it must fundamentally redefine love itself, wouldn't it? Moving it from, say, just an emotion directed at specific people to something more pervasive, like an orientation, a way of existing.
Precisely. Erich Fromm, again in The Art of Loving, describes love in this transformed state not primarily as a relationship to a specific object of affection, but as an attitude, an orientation of character, which determines the relatedness of a person to the world as a whole.
Love as an attitude.
Yes. He says, if you truly love one person in this expansive, unconditional sense, then I love all persons, I love the world, I love life. It becomes a universal principle, an all-encompassing way of being that just permeates your entire existence.
Is there an example of that?
Well, think of the story of Siddhartha after his awakening under the Bodhi tree. The text says he was full of joyful love for everything he saw, and he realized his previous sickness, his suffering, was fundamentally his inability to truly love in this way. This overflowing, selfless, unconditional love is one of the clearest fruits, one of the most recognizable signs of deep spiritual transformation and union.
And this whole journey, this ultimate union, it speaks to the enduring nature of the soul itself, doesn't it? It implies that we don't just achieve this state and then, poof, cease to be or dissolve into nothingness.
The enduring, even eternal nature of the soul is absolutely fundamental to this whole understanding of union. Conversations with God affirms this with great clarity. You don't ever die. You cannot, for you are life itself.
Wow.
You cannot die.
That's the assertion. It even elaborates that upon physical death, the soul learns that it can go anywhere with the speed of its thought. It can be in 2 places at once, or 3 places, or 5. It speaks to the unbound, non-local, eternal nature of consciousness itself.
And other perspectives.
The seed of the soul describes the soul as having no beginning and no end, but flows toward wholeness, constantly evolving toward greater awareness and freedom. So this union isn't conceived as an endpoint of existence, but rather a profound transformation of how we exist, perhaps opening the door to an even richer, more expansive evolutionary journey beyond our current comprehension.
This brings us to a really powerful idea, one that resonates strongly with many contemporary spiritual teachings. This notion that our inner world isn't just a passive reflection of reality.
It's more like a dynamic blueprint, that our thoughts and intentions are incredibly potent, actively shaping our experience of reality.
Yes, and this raises a profoundly important question, especially for anyone on this path. If our soul, particularly as it approaches or enters this state of union, is this powerful, how does that actually manifest in our external reality?
Does it manifest?
According to some sources, yes, powerfully. Conversations with God states unequivocally that all effect is created by thought, and that manifestation is a result of intention. What I focus on as my intention becomes my reality.
That's a huge claim.
It's a radical reassertion of our co-creative power. And the fifth agreement echoes this idea, saying something like, whatever happened in your past is in the virtual reality, but the mind can make you suffer and live in shame for years. It highlights the mind's profound creative power, either to create suffering based on illusion or to create beauty based on truth.
So our inner world isn't just a reflection.
It's the engine. It's the engine of our experience, a source from which our reality unfolds.
So practically speaking then, cultivating this inner reality, making sure our thoughts are aligned with our highest good, with truth, that's paramount. The text suggests thought control, or what some might call prayer, is everything. It advises us to think only on good things and righteous, dwell not in negativity and darkness.
Precisely. In the state of union, and even in the stages leading up to it, our inner reality becomes an incredibly potent force for creation. This understanding underscores the immense responsibility that comes with deepening spiritual awareness. It's no longer just about passive observation, it's about consciously choosing the quality of our thoughts, knowing that they are the seeds of our experienced reality. It becomes a practice of continuous mindful intention shaping our internal world to help manifest a more harmonious external one.
Okay, so after this incredible, detailed journey through Teresa's interior castle and seeing how it connects with so many other streams of wisdom, what does this all mean for us, right here, right now? How do we take this profound map and actually integrate it into our daily lives? How do we move beyond just intellectual understanding to a lived experience?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? How to live it. I think it begins with recognizing ourselves more fully as profoundly complex three-part beings.
Three-part?
Yes. Conversations with God offers a very useful distinction here. It illustrates how many people live primarily as a single-faceted creature, focus almost solely on the body, driven by concerns like money, sex, power, possessions.
The outer mansion stuff?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Others evolve, it suggests, to become a dual-faceted creature, engaging both body and mind. They start seeking companionship, creativity, personal growth, intellectual stimulation.
Okay, moving inward a bit.
Moving inward, yes. But the real integration, the path that leads towards the heart of the inner castle, is realizing and living as a three-part being: body, mind, and spirit or soul. This perspective fully embraces our spiritual identity, our deeper life purpose, our relationship to the divine, however we conceive it, and our ongoing path of evolution. It's a truly holistic view of the self.
And the ultimate goal, then, is to achieve harmony across all three aspects, not to deny one for the sake of another, but to bring them into perfect alignment, perfect function.
Exactly, that's the integration. The Philokalia emphasizes this beautifully, stating that right judgment penetrates all three aspects of the soul, enabling them to function in harmony. It's all about cultivating that deep inner balance, allowing each aspect, body, mind, spirit, to function optimally, but guided by the wisdom and light emanating from the soul, from that divine center, rather than being driven solely by the impulsive desires of the body or the endless, often fearful, chatter of the unexamined mind. When these three aspects are brought into harmony, the entire castle functions as a radiant, unified whole. That's the lived experience of integration.
This also sounds like it involves developing a much heightened sense of awareness, a kind of constant discernment between what's truly real, what is fundamental truth, and what's merely a mental construct, an illusion, maybe even a virtual reality created by our own minds.
That's a crucial component of what you might call self-mastery, yes. It's about cultivating an awareness that allows us to distinguish between that virtual reality our minds are constantly generating based on past conditioning, fears, beliefs, and fundamental truth, what is actually objectively real in the present moment.
How do we do that?
Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. in The Fifth Agreement describes how our greatest masterpiece of art is the use of a language to create an entire virtual reality within our mind. He points out that this virtual reality we create could be a clear reflection of the truth, or it could be completely distorted.
And awareness is the key.
Awareness of this distinction, becoming aware of our mind's constant narrative spinning, that's what leads to self-mastery, to a life that's very easy. Because you're no longer constantly fighting illusions you mistake for reality. Sam Harris in Waking Up also touches on this, arguing that true mindfulness must be synonymous with dispelling the illusion of the self, the very illusion that creates and perpetuates this distorting virtual reality in the first place.
And this goes way beyond just acquiring knowledge, right? Beyond collecting facts or theories about spirituality. It's about wisdom, how we apply that knowledge, how we actually live it out.
Indeed. Knowledge is one thing, wisdom is another. Conversations with God states this quite simply. Wisdom is knowledge applied.
Knowledge applied.
It's not enough to know about the mansions. You have to walk through them, engage with the process. It's not enough to understand the ego intellectually. You have to actively see through it and disarm its influence in your daily life. The text further suggests we should teach children how to think, rather than just what to think, enabling them to discover their own truths.
And that applies to us too.
Absolutely. It applies equally to ourselves as adults. It's about developing the ability to critically assess information, to internalize insights, and most importantly, to actively apply these spiritual principles in our choices, our relationships, our work. It's not about accumulating facts. It's a call to embody the truth we discover.
And finally, it feels like this isn't a journey with a finite endpoint, is it? Even after achieving this profound union, this harmony, there's a sense of ongoing expansion, a continual unfolding. Like the castle always has more rooms, more depth to reveal.
That's a crucial takeaway, I think, and it speaks beautifully to the infinite, boundless nature of the divine and of the soul itself. This isn't a destination where you arrive, plant a flag, and then just stop.
You're right. Okay, I'm enlightened now. Done.
Exactly. It's far more dynamic. It's a profound transformation into a continuously evolving state of being. The Feet of the Soul emphasizes these evolutionary journeys of souls, constantly expanding awareness, deepening connection, contributing to the universe in ever-new, ever-creative ways.
An endless journey.
In a sense, Ramana Maharshi, the great sage, quoted in Be Here Now, even suggested that the extinction of the three forms of liberation is the only true liberation, hinting at a process that goes far beyond any single static endpoint we can conceive of. The journey of the soul, mirroring the infinite nature of its source, is endless. It's an infinite unfolding of divine potential, always revealing new depths within that magnificent crystal castle.
Wow. So what started as a 16th century mystic's vivid vision of a crystal castle, described with such incredible detail and passion, it really does become a timeless, universal map for our own inner world.
It truly does.
A profound journey of, well, shedding distractions, confronting our own ego, actively cultivating virtues, even embracing the purifying darkness of transformation, and ultimately realizing the divine that resides within us all along, our truest self.
Indeed. We've seen today how St. Teresa's interior castle isn't merely some quaint historical allegory. It's a profound and remarkably practical guide, and it's mirrored, illuminated, and expanded upon by diverse wisdom traditions from across the globe and throughout history. It shows us, I think, quite unequivocally, that the most significant, the most transformative journey we could ever possibly undertake is the one inward, the journey through the many mansions of our own being. It's the journey that brings us into direct, conscious contact with our inherent connection to the Absolute, to the source of all being. It is ultimately a journey of becoming fully and truly ourselves in communion with the divine.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. If your soul is indeed a magnificent crystal castle full of light and infinite potential, what is one door you can choose to open, perhaps one room you can decide to explore more deeply starting today?